Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really zeroing in on Aman, the IDF's central military intelligence body.
That's right.
Our source material is a pretty detailed entry on Aman, and our mission here is basically to unpack its structure, its history, key roles, and maybe touch on some significant moments.
Yeah, get you a solid grasp of this really crucial Israeli intelligence organization.
We want to give you the core understanding, concisely but thoroughly.
Exactly. We're aiming to go a bit deeper than just the surface facts, understand how it works, how it's changed, its place in the whole Israeli security setup.
It's interesting how it grew, isn't it? From pre-state networks to this major agency.
Absolutely fascinating. That evolution tells a story in itself.
Okay, let's jump right in. What is Aman, fundamentally?
So Aman, the full Hebrew name is Agaf Hamodian, literally the intelligence section.
Agaf Hamadim, got it.
But yeah, everyone calls it Aman. That's Halis in Hebrew. It was formally established back in 1950.
1950?
Yeah.
And why then? What was the trigger?
Well, it was spun off from the IDF General Staff's intelligence department. It was kind of a recognition that military intelligence needed its own dedicated, specialized structure.
So before 50, it was just embedded within the general staff. Less distinct?
Pretty much. I mean, intelligence work was happening, obviously. But creating Aman marked a shift. It became an independent service, not part of the ground forces or the Navy or the Air Force specifically.
Okay, centralized.
Right, like an intelligence nerve center serving all branches, and its roots go way back, largely staffed by former members of the Haganah Intelligence Service, the Shai.
The Shai, right, pre-state intelligence. And where does Aman sit within the wider Israeli intelligence community? It's not alone.
No, definitely not. It's one of the main pillars. You've got the big three, really. Aman, Mossad.
Mossad for foreign intelligence.
Correct. And Shin Bet, which handles internal security, including the Palestinian territories. Aman is actually the largest of the three, and its focus is military intelligence.
The largest. Okay. So heavily tied into military operations.
Deeply, yeah.
Our source mentioned some key units inside Aman. Which ones are sort of the headliners?
Okay, yeah, there are some very significant ones. Probably the most famous, or at least talked about, is Unit 8200.
Ah, yes, the cyber unit.
Exactly. Their cyber warfare branch, SIGINT, Signals Intelligence and Cyber Operations. Huge reputation for technological prowess. Vital stuff today.
Makes sense. What else?
Then you have Unit 504. That's focused on human-human intelligence.
Boots on the ground. Classic spycraft.
That kind of thing, yeah. Relying on people for information. And Unit 81, that's their secret technology unit, developing cutting-edge, often classified tech.
So 8200 for cyber, 504 for human intel, 81 for tech. What about training and operations?
Well, for training future leaders, there's the Havatsalot program. It's a very elite selective training course. And then for special operations, you have Seret Matkal.
The General Staff Reconnaissance Unit. That falls under Aman, too.
Yes, it operates under Aman. It's their elite special forces unit, often involved in, high-stakes intelligence gathering behind enemy lines.
Wow, okay. So Unit 8200, 504, 81, Havatsalot, Seret Matkal. Quite a roster.
Definitely covers a lot of ground.
Now, things get a little complex with acronyms when we talk about other IDF intelligence bodies like Haman and Modash. How do they relate to Aman?
Right, it can be a bit confusing. Let's break it down. Haman, that's Hail Hamodian, is the IDF's intelligence corps.
The corps itself?
Yes. Now, it used to be part of Aman, but it was detached after the Yom Kippur War in '73. That was a major shakeup.
Okay, so it's separate now.
Structurally separate, yes, but crucially, Haman still remains under Aman's jurisdiction. Its commander, a brigadier general, reports to the head of Aman.
Ah, okay. So a distinct corps, but ultimately under Aman's umbrella professionally.
Exactly. Think of Aman as setting the overall direction and standards.
Got it. And Modash, that's another one.
Modash, right. Halmodian Sa'ad, the Combat Intelligence Collection Corps. This one's much newer, founded in April 2000. It's actually the IDF's newest land corps.
And its purpose?
It was set up specifically to handle some of the combat intelligence functions, the battlefield intelligence gathering that Aman used to manage more directly.
So taking some load off Aman.
In a way, yes, specializing that function at the core level. Now, operationally, Modash reports to the GOC Army Headquarters, the Ground Forces Command.
Okay.
But professionally, it's still under Aman's jurisdiction.
Okay, let me see if I have this right. Haman is a separate corps, but under Aman's overall jurisdiction. Modash is operationally under the army, but professionally under Amma.
You got it. It's like Aman sets the doctrine, the how-to for intelligence work, even for units formally under different commands.
That analogy helps.
Huh.
Thanks. Let's rewind a bit. How did Aman actually start? What were the early days like?
Well, like we touched on, the roots are really in the pre-state era with the
The
Haganah.
main Jewish paramilitary group before 48.
Exactly. And they had their own intelligence service, the Shai Sheret Jediut. It was their secret service, essentially. In the late 1940s, David Ben-Gurion, who'd become Israel's first prime minister, basically commissioned the Shai leaders to create a proper secret service structure for the new state.
So the pioneers of Aman came directly from this underground pre-state intelligence world.
Absolutely. They brought that experience, that mindset. A key figure was Reuven Shiloh, also from the Shai. He's widely credited with designing the initial setup.
And what did that look like?
His vision involved 4 independent services initially: Aman for military intelligence, Shin Bet for internal security.
Which we still have today.
Right. Then there was Malikat Hauchecker, which handled foreign intelligence at first. And finally, Mossad Leili Jabet focused on illegal immigration, immigration facilitation. That one was actually dissolved in March 52.
4 distinct branches right from the start.
Yeah,
Shows they anticipated the different intelligence needs.
certainly. And to make sure they all coordinated, Shilok set up the Committee of Secret Service Chiefs around mid-1949, a top-level coordinating body.
Like an oversight committee.
Sort of, yeah, ensuring they worked together. And interestingly, that Makleket Hochecker, the early foreign intel unit, it evolved. By 1963, it was officially renamed the Institute for Intelligence Service and Special Tasks,
Which is...
the Mossad we know today.
So that's the lineage of the Mossad. Fascinating. Now, the source also mentions another agency, Lachem. Less famous, perhaps.
Yes, Lachem is definitely more obscure. It stood for the Science Liaison Bureau. It was a technology intelligence agency, kind of an offshoot of the Department of Defense.
For science and tech secrets.
Pretty much. Its job was acquiring scientific and technological information, specifically for Israel's security needs. It operated quite secretively for a long time.
And what happened to it?
Its role diminished, and it eventually faded out in the 1980s, partly due to scandals like the Jonathan Pollard affair, which involved Lachem.
Right. Now, speaking of setbacks, the source brings up a major historical event, the Lavon affair. Sounds serious.
Oh, it was a huge intelligence failure with massive political fallout in the 1950s.
What happened?
Aman ran an operation called Operation Susanna. The idea was to have Israeli agents, saboteurs, attack Western facilities like American and British targets in Egypt.
Why would they do that?
The goal, apparently, was to poison the relationship between Egypt under President Nasser and the West, particularly the U.S. They wanted it to look like Egyptian extremists were responsible.
Wow, that's playing with fire.
Yeah.
It's extremely risky.
Hugely risky. And it backfired spectacularly. Egyptian security uncovered the network. They captured agents, got hold of sensitive Israeli military intelligence info.
A complete compromise.
Total disaster. It led to a show trial in Egypt in January 55, 10 people convicted, 2 sentenced to death.
And the political consequences in Israel.
Immense. The defense minister at the time, Pinnis Lavon, resigned almost immediately. Then the director of Aman, Binyamin Ghibli, was forced out. The scandal simmered for years.
Years.
Yes, it contributed to ongoing political instability. Ultimately, even David Ben-Gurion resigned as head of state in 1963, partly because of the lingering controversy from the Lavon affair.
That really shows the potential for things to go wrong, and the level of accountability or lack thereof initially that caused such turmoil.
Absolutely. It was a defining failure, a really painful lesson about oversight, control of operations, and the potential for catastrophic blowback.
A stark reminder. Okay, let's shift back to Aman's structure today. The source lists quite a few subordinate units.
Yes, it's a complex organization. We've mentioned the big operational units like 504 for human and 81 for tech. But there's more, of course.
Like what?
Well, you have various staff units, admin, planning, logistics, the usual organizational backbone. There's the research department, which is incredibly important. They analyze the raw intelligence, make sense of it, produce assessments.
Turning data into actionable intelligence.
Precisely. Then the information security department, obviously crucial for protecting their own secrets. And interestingly, the military censor.
The censor is part of Aman. I thought they were separate.
Organizationally, yes, it falls under Aman, but, and this is key, it operates as an entirely independent unit. It has parliamentary and judicial oversight.
That's an important distinction. Balancing security and democratic checks.
It is. Then there's the Intelligence Center, likely the hub for analysis and dissemination. A supervision department, probably for internal checks and balances. external relations for liaison with foreign agencies.
Makes sense.
There's also Roim Rachak, which means seeing far, suggesting long-range strategic forecasting. We mentioned the Havatzlat program for training. And then importantly, Aman provides professional guidance for intelligence units embedded elsewhere.
Elsewhere in the IDF.
Exactly. The Air Intelligence Group in the Air Force, the Naval Intelligence Division in the Navy, the Combat Intelligence Collection Corps, MODASH, under Army HQ, and the intelligence units within the regional commands, Central, Northern, Southern, Home Front.
So Aman sets the standards for all of them.
In essence, yes. It ensures a unified approach to intelligence across the entire military. Even the Center for Consciousness Operations, which is a psychological warfare unit under the Operations Directorate, falls within this broader Aman-guided intelligence community within the IDF.
It really is the central hub. Okay, finally, let's talk leadership and oversight. Who's in charge?
The head of Aman holds the rank of Major General Aluf in Hebrew. It's a very senior post in the IDF.
And how does that position relate to the other big intelligence chiefs?
That person sits at the very top table alongside the heads of the Shabak, Shin Bet, and the Mossad. These three are often referred to as the co-equal heads of the Israeli intelligence community.
The top trio covering military, domestic, and foreign intelligence.
Exactly. They coordinate at the highest level.
The source mentions some leadership changes.
Yes, it gives examples. Like Aharon Zibi Farkash being replaced by Amos Yadlin around 2005-2006, reflecting shifts or responses to events. More recently and significantly, Major General Aharon Haliva resigned in April 2024.
Following the October 7th attacks.
Correct. Directly citing his command responsibility for the intelligence failures linking up to the Hamas attack. It underscores the immense weight and accountability of that role. He's since been succeeded by Major General Shlomi Brinder.
Those transitions really highlight the critical nature and the pressures of leading Aman.
Absolutely. And, for listeners wanting to dig even deeper, the source material does have see also in references sections with more leads.
Great. So let's quickly recap this deep dive. We've looked at Aman as the IDF's core military intelligence agency, its key units like 8200 and 504, its origins in the pre-state Shai,
its complex relationship with Haman and Modash, the significant historical impact events like the Lavon affair,
and its central coordinating role within the wider Israeli intelligence community, led by one of the top 3 intelligence chiefs.
Yeah, I think that covers the main points. You get a sense of how vital and how complex this organization is, especially given Israel's security situation.
It certainly paints a picture. All right, for our final thought today, thinking about Aman's complex structure, its history, the failures like Lavon, what are the unavoidable challenges for any large military intelligence body operating in such a, dynamic and dangerous part of the world?
That's a big question.
And what does something like the Lavon affair really tell us about the inherent risks? And perhaps the absolute need for clear lines of accountability when you wield that kind of power and secrecy. Something definitely to mull over.
Indeed. Food for thought.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.